All right, so we're unscrambling these 3 words. Any guesses? Rebecca.
The first one, gland.
The first one is gland. Good job. Kylie, the second one?
I think the second one's hormone.
Hormone. That would make sense. How about that third one? I cannot even guess the third one. Lauren?
Control.
That looks right. Yeah, because their endocrine system does a lot of control in the body. Good work. Okay, so there's only 7 total slides, and this is the second one, so there's 5 more after this. We'll talk about why the endocrine system is important to the body, discuss 5 glands in the endocrine system, and describe what their hormones do. I'll show you an example of a feedback mechanism that helps to start and stop the release of hormones, and then we'll talk about hormone imbalances. Yesterday we talked about the nervous system and electrical messages, but even though I told you it's really charged particles, charged molecules, or chemicals that cause the transmission of messages, but here we have actual chemicals in the body in the form of hormones that help to control your bodily functions. So the endocrine system is a group of glands, and glands are a group of cells that secrete hormones.
What does secrete mean?
Secrete, that's a good question. Secrete means to produce and let it out, put it into something. Secrete. So there's several different glands, and those were the ones on that sheet on your homework page. And each gland is a mass of tissue, which is a group of cells, and each one makes a different type of hormone. And a hormone is a chemical messenger. And then a hormone is a chemical messenger in one cell or tissue that causes a change in another tissue in another part of the body. So more specifically, it's chemicals that make something in another part of your body do something. In your notes where it says includes, write gland and hormone for sure. The thyroid gland would be in your neck, somewhere in your neck, and it secretes growth hormones. So I know some people would have issues with their thyroid gland producing growth hormones, and they don't grow at the rate as their peers grow. And so some people need human growth hormone injections to help them grow. Some people take human growth hormone injections illegally for other purposes. They're a little different, I think. I'm not sure about that either. I'm not sure. So thyroid gland produces growth hormone, and it makes your cells divide and know how to do stuff like that. The thymus gland we talked about being in the chest, and as you grow older, it kind of shrivels away, and it produces those white blood cells for your lymphatic system. And that's what it says here again. So we'll have to Google that one too and see if the thymus produces a hormone other than the white blood cells they're calling killer T cells here. And I'll talk about metabolism. You'll notice that the reproductive
Whole thing? The whole thing.
No. Okay, so the pituitary gland is on the top here. It is the master gland of the endocrine system. It regulates all of the other hormones that go through the body. And I should actually probably back up here and say that the hormones travel in the bloodstream. I never told you that today, now I just did. So that's another thing that's in the bloodstream is hormones. So eventually those get to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is going to monitor how much hormones are in the bloodstream, and then they can send some other message somewhere else to make another gland make more hormones. So it's this really weird self-regulating system in your body of, I guess, checks and balances, kind of like how the government might operate. the glands kind of need permission from the pituitary gland to do things, in a sense. Some of the glands, not all of them. So I'm not going to get into that more. So that's about all I know about that. Okay, so then we'll actually skip over here to the thyroid gland, and then I'll get to parathyroid gland. The thyroid gland is that upside down butterfly shaped or angel wing shaped gland in your neck, and that produces that human growth hormone that we talked about, and it also increases the rate at which you use energy, so your metabolism. You guys ever heard of anybody who's had their thyroid removed? They have to take special medicine for that because the thyroid is what monitors their metabolism. It also will make them, I guess, really sleepy and lethargic, and moods and energy levels will just go up and down like really crazy. So they need medicine to help keep that in balance. So they also need medicine to help with their metabolism. Behind the thyroid is the parathyroid gland. So in the picture, they're kind of green dots. And those regulate how much calcium are in the blood. So they tell your bones when to store calcium and when to take calcium out into the bloodstream. So they help to, because you need calcium to make your muscles contract. But you need calcium to make your bones strong. So they regulate how much gets stored in the bones and how much gets taken out of the bones. We talked about the thymus gland and that, now I forget the name of that hormone, thymosin or something, that make the thymosin hormone tells your body how much of those killer T cells to make. And then the adrenal glands are sitting on top of the kidneys. So the kidneys are down here and the adrenal glands sit on top of them, kind of like the kidneys are wearing little hats. And the adrenal glands, we said, produce adrenaline. We also said they produce pheromones. And that adrenaline helps your body respond to danger. It's your fight or flight hormone, so you can be Superman when you need to be. The pancreas is behind the stomach. The pancreas secretes pancreatic juice to help digest food in the small intestine, but it also produces a hormone called insulin. And insulin regulates your blood sugar levels. So like when you eat, it controls how much of that sugar stays in your bloodstream so you can take it to your cells for cellular respiration, but it decides how much sugar to store. I think it stores it somewhere in the liver. So it works with another hormone in the liver, and I'll show you, we'll have that whole slide here in a minute to show you how that whole system works. But it controls how much blood sugar, and that's, when your blood sugar levels are off, you probably feel it. You might get cranky, you might feel lightheaded, you might feel nauseous, you might feel like you need to lay down, or like, hey, get me a Snickers, that kind of thing. So your pancreas is responsible for that. Okay, and like I said, on Monday we'll talk more about the ovaries and testes, but just so you know why they're in here. The ovaries produce the female hormones that are needed for reproduction. That includes estrogen, but there's a couple more. Progesterone is another one, and there's a couple of other hormones involved with reproduction, female reproduction. And then the testes are glands in the male reproductive system that produce testosterone that's needed for sperm production, for reproduction. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of a feedback mechanism. Hormones, like I told you, for instance, like I said, the pituitary gland will control other hormones. So, and then that will make something else happen and make something else happen. So I'm going to show you an example of that. It's called a feedback mechanism. Occasionally, an endocrine gland makes too much or not enough of a hormone. For example, sometimes a child's pituitary gland doesn't make enough growth hormone, and as a result, the child's growth is stunted. Okay, so this is showing what's happening before and after mealtime with your blood sugar level. So this says glucose, and we already know glucose is a sugar. So with your sugars in your body. Number 1, it says that glucose is fuel for your body. We need it to make ATP for cellular respiration so you have energy to do things. It's absorbed into your bloodstream through your small intestine when you digest food. Number 2, after you eat, you'll get a spike in blood sugar levels. And then, in response, the pancreas releases the hormone insulin. So then you've got insulin coming in after a meal because your blood sugar is too high. Okay, insulin is a hormone that sends a signal to the liver. And it tells the liver to take in glucose from the blood. So it's telling the liver to store sugar. So the insulin tells the liver to store the glucose. And it stores it in the form of glycogen. And glycogen is stored, it's stored sugar that can be used really easily. So there's 2 types of stored energy in the body. There's fat and there's glycogen. So when you work out, like you're in PE and they make you run the mile, you get energy from burning off glycogen. If you burn off all of the glycogen stores that your liver has, then you start burning off fat, which some of us need to do. So it doesn't burn off fat until it burns off the glycogen. So then your pancreas is going to detect when you have the right amount of blood sugar now, and then it stops releasing the hormone, insulin. If then, after a meal, you don't have enough blood sugar or sugar in your blood, then you have another hormone called glucagon. And I'm not sure exactly where that's made, maybe in the liver, but it tells the liver, hey, take this glycogen that you stored down here and break it up so that we can put some of that glucose back into the bloodstream. So that's your body's continually doing that with insulin and glucagon and insulin and glucagon and insulin and glucagon, telling your liver to store the sugar or to get rid of it. And so a lot of times we just have to eat something so that we can regulate that. So some people, like I said, their pancreas can't control it like it should, and then the blood sugar levels get off balance, and then other interventions like insulin injections need to be taken.